and the microphone are off, so you'll never know.
Oh. So just what kind of pants are you wearing, DS?
Well, I have my new Christmas pants on.
And we're live. Ooh. Thank you all. You're on BUB'S Comics channel. But let me tell you, on Monday night, it doesn't matter whose channel it's on, because we all know why you're here. You're here to see the No Faces chat. And for the first time ever, I'm going to use this phrase or this descriptor of the co-host event of Metarog, Roger, and DS Comics. They are my co-hosts. Now that we've been doing this a year and a half, they're no longer guests as usual. They're my co-hosts. So thank you guys for being with me for this long.
Well, nice to finally get some recognition after all the years of doing the show. I'll take it.
Yep. I'm glad you finally earned it.
Another Christmas miracle.
I figured DS. I figure we were on a 1.5-year probation. That's the way I look at it. And you finally, how you have, when you start a job, sometimes you have 6 months and they can fire you for any reason. That's what this was. But Bub, he wanted to be extra sure, so he gave us a 1.5 years.
Well, I tell you, in this YouTube community, just when you start to love a channel, they disappear. They go black, they go dark. There are a lot of channels that pop up, hit the ground running. They're making 10 videos a week. They're on everybody's live stream. They're making the rounds. They're getting shout outs. They're holding, 100 subscriber contest videos. And then all of a sudden they just freaking disappear. They change jobs, or, the wife's having triplets again or something like that. And then all of a sudden, boom, they're gone. And all you got is the memories of a great channel. So that happens,
Well, the hobby takes a lot of dedication, a lot of time, a lot of passion. It takes money, and it's hard for anyone to maintain high levels of all those things for sustained periods of time. And so that's what I think happens. I think people don't lose their passion, but they don't have the time, or they're not able to dedicate enough time to it, or pick up enough things to make it worth it, or doing YouTube videos. Just for me, it takes a lot of time and effort. I got to set things up. I've got to have a space available, and I don't do it.
We can hear you.
It's tough sometimes. So anybody who's stuck with it gets a lot of credit for doing that. If you stick with it even more than a few months, I think.
I agree. And speaking of the Kavi, wait, did you say sticking with the Kavi or sticking with the hobby?
Either one, both.
All right. Well, sticking with the Kavi, our special guest tonight.
You scared him off.
Decided that he's had enough of DS and Metarog's continuous kindness and rambling. That's it. He's had it. He's out of here. Kavi is clearly having some technical difficulties, but don't worry, because I also sent an invite to Javi of the Conquistadors. So I'm going to get an Avi on tonight, one way or another. I don't care if it's a K or a J, but we're going to get one. Metarog's gone to sleep. He's turned sideways. We're a little worried about him too. DS, it might just be you and me for 2020. What do you say, buddy?
Yeah, I'm down. I'm not going anywhere. I'm good to go.
Roger, you're sideways. Can you see yourself?
No, my phone is like, I don't know what it's doing. Hold on. Hold on a second here.
Oh, goodness. What a mess. Wait, I think we have a Kavi back. Kavi, are you there?
Yes, and I can hear you this time. I don't know what happened there, but thanks for having me on the show, guys. You're allowing me to revert to my natural state of my face not in front of the camera, so I really appreciate it. Always good to be hanging out with you guys.
Nice. Glad to have you back. We are here in the No Faces chat. You know what? We're going to start making some new traditions here. We're going into 2020. It's a whole new world. A whole new world. And we've got Kavi in the house. And Kavi's going to tell us what the team name is for tonight. What is it, Kavi?
I don't know.
Oh, crap.
I never saw the link.
We're scratching this for the 2020. This idea.
I know what it is.
Defunct.
I know what our name is.
All right, what's our name?
I just remember it because I thought it was just so bad, but it's the Surrendering Yanks.
Yes, the Surrendering Yanks.
I don't know what they're
What's that
surrendering.
supposed to mean?
Well, take it however you want, Roger. But what it means is, I was thinking about. Actually, I was bidding on a book today. It was a Fighting Yank title, and I thought the Fighting Yank, and I was like, well, since we're all but one of us, right? Because Kavi, I assume you're still in the big NYC, aren't you?
I am. Yeah. I mean, I live in Brooklyn, but I work in Manhattan.
Well, that's still New York City.
New York City area, yes.
Brooklyn's New York City. I'm from Brooklyn. What do you mean it's New York City?
Yeah.
It's New York City.
Yeah,
But when you live in the city, Brooklyn's not the city. Manhattan's the city.
It's the biggest. It's the biggest.
When you're there,
borough.
you say the city. But if you say New York City, that's the 5 boroughs, unless it's Long Island. Then
yes, but you do have to write. You do have to write Brooklyn on your address, not New York. New York. So
right,
but
you don't get to write New York. That's true.
Yeah, exactly.
So aside from Kavi, who's in New York, well, during the day, we're all formerly from the Northeast, right? DS, you from that area? You're still in that area, some, aren't you?
Yeah, I mean, I grew up for a large portion of my life, outside of New York City, and I spent a lot of time in New York City, Jersey, Northeast PA, New York. So yeah, I'm from that area, so I'm pretty familiar with it up there.
And Roger, who
grew up with 10-10 wins and WPI in the Yankee games, and I went to Modell's a few times to get some sporting goods.
Yeah, gotta go to Modell's, baby.
So yeah, I'm familiar with it.
That's right. And much like 10-10 ones, if you give us 10, give you the world. And we've got Roger, who's left us again. I'm telling you, DS, I don't know how you became the most stable member of this chat after not even being here last week on account of your, whatever. I hope it's cleared up. And now we've got
Wait, he's still dealing with those.
Is that Roger?
Pelvis
Roger,
problems?
are you back?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we got you.
Oh, okay, great.
Welcome, Roger. We missed you.
Yeah, I was listening on my other phone while I was rebooting this. I don't know what happened to this phone. It just said I want to kick you out for some reason, and it did. So I
Wow, how rude.
Yeah, very, isn't it?
Well, we were talking about how we're all kind of ex-Yank patriots. Don't you hail from up north as swell?
Yep, I was. Yes, I lived the first 3.5 years of my life in Newark, New Jersey. Yes.
Nice.
There you go. So we're all surrendering Yanks. We all headed down south, except for Kavi, who just headed over to Brooklyn.
Well, I headed west, actually. I lived in Los Angeles for 10 years. And I only recently came back to the East Coast 5 years ago.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Well, welcome back to the coast.
Thank you.
Well, I'm not here, but I'm sure they welcome you to the coast.
So I headed west. I made that journey. So
wow, that's
that
tough. That's a lot of travel to still not be in warm weather sometimes.
Oh yeah, I still remember the solo cross-country drive trip that I took to get there with all the possessions that I could fit into a 1998 Nissan Maxima or Altima or whatever the hell that car was. So that was interesting. I was 22 years old and I just moved across the country by myself. So
wow,
that was definitely different days I look back fondly on, but I definitely had no idea what I was doing.
Nice. Well, I tell you, you just mentioned DS Comics' Grail car, the 98 Altima.
I had a 98 Maxima.
There you go. The 98 Maxima. He wanted to just step one more down to the Altima to save a little bit on his payment and couldn't make it. So
yeah, I moved down.
I bought that when I was away at college, my father totaled my car. Like the first car I ever had, everything, it was like a 1994 Camaro Z28 with like T-tops, like that really like shitty looking car, but powerful car. But my dad totaled it. So when I graduated college and I was going to move to the West Coast, I bought that car from my brother who was graduating high school at the time. So that's how I got that Nissan. It was just convenience.
That's a win right there.
Yeah, man.
You got to get them any way you can get them. I always say all I need is 5 wheels, 4 on the ground and 1 to steer.
And sometimes not even that one. Now we have those driving cars. You may not need a steering wheel very soon.
You might not. Start floating around.
Yeah, they got one here at the college where I'm at, where my wife works and stuff, and that's scary stuff, man. Seeing a car with no driver.
Wow, that freaks me out.
Yeah, you bet.
All right, enough scary talk of the future days that are upon us. Let's delve into the topic tonight. DS, what's our topic? Never mind, we already heard from you.
What the topic is. I prepped for tonight.
How did you do that?
How did you prep for tonight?
Trying to break in the new year, New Year's resolution, be more prepared for the show. So there you go.
You're full of crap. All right, go ahead. What's the topic tonight there, DS?
Well, I think we were going to take topics and perhaps do a Q&A with the chat.
Yes, that sounds about right.
So,
all right. So does anyone have a great question for Kavi other than what was he thinking when he agreed to be on the show tonight? I'm looking through the chat. I'm not seeing anything. Of course, we didn't ask anything yet, but anyone got a great question for anyone on the panel or for the entire panel? But be advised, if you choose Metarog, that's going to be about 30 minutes. So make sure that
you... that one got old a year and a half ago.
I have a question for Kavi.
That doesn't count. Next.
All right, go ahead. I'll type it in the
I
chat.
have a question for Kavi too, so I'm hoping it's maybe the same one.
I'll type it in the chat.
Go for it. No, what's the question?
What's the question, guys? I could barely hear for some reason. The audio's coming in really like splotchy on my end for some reason, so I'm having a hard time hearing you guys.
Well,
if you guys ask me a question,
if that's the 35-cent Star Wars variant,
that is the 35-cent price variant.
Oh,
yeah. So the books that I pulled out, I guess I kind of pulled that book out for 2 reasons. Probably because it's one of my favorite pickups of 2019, but also because I know Roger appreciates the 35-cent, the price variance.
And
I picked that book. That was a birthday present for myself back in January of the year, and it's still probably one of the top 3 books I picked up this year for sure. I was super stoked to get it. It's only at a 1.8, but there's only so many of them in existence, and 1.8 something I didn't have to worry about spending multiple thousands of dollars, because that's how much that book is now in higher grades. So
yeah.
I don't know what kind of seating position you're in, but can you show that closer to the camera at all?
Sorry, can you repeat that?
I said, can you put that closer to the camera so we can get a good look at it? Or put the camera closer to it.
There you go. Yeah, notice.
Does that work?
Notice. Yeah,
I can barely hear you guys.
Yeah, notice the
it
font
looks a lot better than a 1.8.
The other 2 books.
Ooh.
Yeah, and the other 2 books are other first cover appearances, Golden Age that I picked up this year. So this one over here is arguably the first cover appearance of Lois Lane. Some people say it's Action Comics 27, but a lot of people say it's this one, Action Comics. And Batman number 20 over here is the first cover appearance of the Batmobile. So those are the books I went with for No Faces.
Nice.
Beautiful.
That's Star Wars 1 there, Kavi. Notice the font, that funky looking 35-cent font. That's how you can tell. But there's a lot of Star Wars number 1. A lot of people think that they have a variant when they don't. That's the legit one, because a lot of people have the Whitman, the reprint, or the regular.
Yeah. So I upgraded my regular Star Wars #1 this year to a 9.2, and then I gave my 8.5 to Bake the Snake as part of an AOK.
Cool.
But yeah, I don't think I'll ever be able to upgrade this 35-cent variant. I'm cool with this 1.8, and that's it. That's the PC.
It's beautiful.
You know, that's. I've had a 2 and I've had a 4, but I never found a 1. So.
I had actually recommended to Roger to name his comic room the Funky Fonts Fontana, and he refused. I don't know why, but I think all those funky font variants are pretty cool.
Well, remember my room name went to a committee, so it wasn't my choice per se. So
okay.
Apparently the funky font went over their heads, or they didn't like it or something.
Well, it can't be that they didn't like it. Let's be real.
Yeah, that's a good point. Of course, I forgot who I'm talking to here.
Nice.
So,
and Roger, what was your question for Kavi?
Well, the same thing actually. Yeah, the same thing. That knowing Kavi like I do, seeing his videos, and he putting that 1.8 up there, I knew that could not be the regular one. So I was like, could I see that variant there that you got? Just, I've never held one myself, but I like I said, I've had a 2 and a 4. But that is like the holy grail of the 35-cent variant set. So
nice.
Well, I think Kavi and Bub could probably answer Jaguar's question.
All right, let's see. Jaguar. Okay, Jaguar wants to know. It's loading. Which artist was the variant king of 2019? I'll probably go with Art Germ, but I have a caveat to that. So, in my opinion, Art Germ was a variant king only because I think for every single new comic book day for the entirety of 2019, Art Germ was on his computer pumping out a cover. And the only thing that I'll say about Art Germ variants is that they're very good for personal collections. But the majority of them, unless it's a hyper exclusive variant, like one that is a 1 for 100 or better, or more rare than that, they don't hold their value. It's really interesting to watch how many people jump on those 9.8 A covers or even B covers and get them slabbed, and then those slabs barely make back the money it costs to slab it. If you go back through the catalog of 2019 books that Art Germ did, which is a crap ton of them, you'll find that most of them are available for $30 to $40 in a 9.8 slab. And if you can ask DS, that is not good 9.8 material. So that's my answer. Anybody else want to chuck an answer out there, Adam?
Well, I have no idea. Comic Collector suggested Josh Middleton as a possible answer, and I don't know who's the variant king. I have no clue. But I will say that of all of them that are sort of well known that I've seen, Middleton is definitely one of my favorite current cover artists. So I'll just throw that out there. But I don't know who's the variant king. I don't follow it.
I agree too.
I think.
What about you, Kavi? Who do you think was the variant king?
Personally.
Oh yeah.
Can you guys hear me? Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we hear you.
Huck Lee.
In Huck Lee.
In Huck Lee.
Wait, I'm getting an. Are you guys not getting an echo? Weird. I'm getting an echo.
We are not getting an echo.
No, I don't hear an echo.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I was going to say that I think it's In Hyuk Lee had a pretty big year.
I agree.
Yeah, I've heard the name. I'm not familiar with his work, but I hear that name a lot, so he's definitely got to be near the top, I'm sure. Because if I'm hearing the name cover artist, that's definitely
he's one of the more heavily commissioned variant artists now.
Yeah. He did a lot of when the X-Men books were taking up a lot of heat with the House of X and the Powers of X and all the X books. he was getting a lot of attention right there too because he had some of the more sought after variants.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask you. Is this question premised on volume, like who has done the most variants covers, or is it the artist that has had the best variant covers?
Well, like for instance, there's a comment here from Unruly Simeon saying that Frizen is great. And then, so I think, and, Middleton's been thrown out there too. So I think some of it, Sienkiewicz, I think if you're already a fan of a particular artist, then that makes a difference, right? So you're going to go after those particular variants. But to me, when I think of a variant king, I think of the name that you could not get away from in every haul video. I got the blank variant.
Yeah.
And Art Germ held I got the Art Germ variant of this book. I mean, people were running out to Walmart this year to pick up a 3-pack that had an Art Germ variant, and the only difference was short hair versus long hair,
Oh, yeah.
So,
I went out to Walmart and picked that up.
Yep.
Yeah, you're welcome for that hot tip.
Yeah, I mean, Art Germ had a strong. Art Germ had a strong 2018 also. He just only continued momentum 2019. Reason I say In-Hyuk Lee is in 2018, nobody knew who the hell he was. And now he's sort of the top demanded variant artist for a lot of collectors and also a lot of store retailers, like a store exclusive type level. I think he's getting comparable level of work to Art Germ now, whereas previously he really was relatively unheard of prior to this year.
You know who it seems to me may have fallen off, and again, I am completely clueless about moderns, but is Delato. It seemed like in 17 and 18 there was a lot of Delato stuff, and now it's like I don't hear that name that much.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think he did fall off.
Yeah,
and
I think he's just been doing less probably, yeah.
It seems like what most of the publishers were doing this past year were assigning people to runs. And so you take on a pretty long run. So you had Art Germ taking on runs in Catwoman, and you had somebody mentioned Alex Ross had a good year. When Immortal Hulk came out and he held that run. So I think there are a lot of guys that are definitely doing well this year and pumping out a lot of books and are on the tip of everyone's tongue. But I mean, I got to look at sales, pickups, and who was hunting. The Ross put out a lot of big covers this year, but his biggest covers were all A covers, not variants. So to me, the question was variants. So, the whole Immortal Hulk run is all A covers. So I don't know that counts. And to me, that was his biggest year, were those, or reprints of his Marvel's books. I don't know that really counts either. So good stuff, though. Great question.
Yeah, good question. That was a good one.
Yeah. All right. What else we got? Was that it? Is that all we got?
Well, there's another question from Patrick Wall.
Okay.
And he's asking me a question. I don't know if you can put that on the screen there, Bub, but
I'll find it.
He says he's got a House of Mystery 181. That's actually this book in the middle I have here. That's a House of Mystery 181.
Yep.
He says he's got a double cover on it. Does it raise the value that much? Yeah, I mean, there's two good things about double covers. Number one, is they grade the interior cover, and they give both covers get their own grades, and they go with the higher grade to factor in with the book. So it raises the overall grade of the book to have the double cover because you got two covers to pick from, the higher of. And then it's, as time goes on, I mean, they're rare anyway, but when you start getting to the Bronze Age, double covers start to become pretty hard to find. And bronze horror books with double covers that can grade out pretty high are pretty sought after because these books, there's not a lot of them out there for some of these specific issues. And there definitely are not a lot of high grade copies. And if you have a high grade copy, and this is a Neil Adams cover too. So if you have a high grade copy of that with a double cover, I think that would command a premium, definitely on the market. I wouldn't mind getting a double cover, but here's what I noticed, and especially with Bronze Horror, there's been a few double covers I've looked at this year. But they go much higher than I want to pay for that book. So clearly they are going for more than just a standard one cover book would go for. So, I mean, there's people that like those. It's sort of a novelty, but it adds to the grade, and it's a nice little rarity among books that are already sort of hard to find in good grades.
And there are double cover collectors, because I know a few from the CGC boards that look for key-ish kind of issues like that with double covers, and they will pay a premium for it. Absolutely.
Yeah, I would say anywhere from 20 to 25%.
Right, about a quarter to a third more. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, 20, 25%, maybe up to a third, but about a quarter, 25% added on in value for a double cover of a book like that. And this one's, not the most sought after, but it's tough to find a high grade, and it's a Neil Adams cover, and obviously I think it's awesome because I have one. So, that's a good book to have a double cover in.
Yeah, it is. It is.
Does anyone on the panel have a double cover? Own a double cover?
I have a couple. Yeah.
Do you?
Yeah, they're nothing key or anything, just run fillers. Yeah.
I have none.
I don't have one, but I've seen a few for sale, and like you say, they usually carry a premium to them. Yeah. And it's one of those things where I've never bought one. I've been tempted a couple of times. If it was a book I was already looking for, maybe I would buy one. But I kind of like the idea of coming across one in the wild. I think it's the kind of thing where, because it's an anomaly, it really won't feel like an anomaly unless I go out and just find it,
And that's the kind of thing you can stumble upon.
And then I buy it, I feel like I'm missing out on some of the excitement.
Yeah, and you can stumble on those in the wild because I would say about probably most of the double covers that are found are from books that are just bought raw. And neither the buyer nor the seller knows it's a double cover, and it's not until later you discover it. It's sort of like finding the signatures on the splash pages. Most people who come across double covers, it's usually they just serendipitously get one and they buy a book and they go through it and they find that it has a double cover. So you can still find those, without even really looking for them.
All right, Kavi, there's a question for you. And I think you answered it in the chat, but go ahead and give another quick answer. Do you collect raw comics?
Yeah, actually, all the comics you see behind those three slabs are all. All the short boxes you see behind those three slabs are raw comics. I would say I probably have maybe a 5-to-1 ratio as far as like raw comics versus slab comics in my collection. So I think I'm approaching maybe like somewhere between 175 and 200 slabs, but definitely have way more raw comic books than slabs.
That's cool.
Wow, that's a lot of slabs.
Yeah, it is.
Oof.
I know. Well, I'm trying to trim that down. Like, I'm trying to get more tight with my collection, but that's a process.
Oh, sure. What's your concentration? I mean, if I can ask you, Kavi, while I'm butting in here, but since we're talking about the amount of comics, right? What's your concentration? I know you have Silver Age, Keys, Golden Age, but what is it you're looking for? What would go into your PC if you see it?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard for me to pass up anything Spider-Man related. That's my top character. Batman would probably be number 2. I do collect a lot of Star Wars related comics, and now more recently Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, which is something I was very much into as a kid, but we really started collecting comics the past couple of years. So I don't know, pretty evenly spread across those few things, with maybe X-Men coming in like the 5th.
Nice. Do you have a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 1? Do you have a 1?
No, I do not.
No. Okay.
I
was just wondering.
If I had to make a 2020 goal list, that would be at the top. I'm hesitant to actually make a 2020 goal list because I never made one before 2019, and I didn't do a great job of like sticking to that list. So I don't really see much of a point for myself to make a 2020 list. I will take the books that I know appeal to me for the right opportunity when they come along.
Well, speaking of your ongoing collecting strategy, I had a question from Mr. Gretzky 9966 for Kavi wants to know, are you going to get in any more older Action Comics? Is that something you're after, or was that just Batmobile a one-off, or the Superman rather a one-off need? You know,
be the Superman, right?
Yeah, Superman.
I have a few. I have a few in the collection. They're not books I can get so regularly, just because there's just not many of them, and then they're all for the most part pricey. So I'm pretty careful with the, I guess, speed in which that I'm collecting Golden Age DC superhero stuff. But I am really into that Golden Age DC superhero stuff, Batman and Superman. I have Superman 11. I have Action Comics 40, Action Comics 29. I got a couple other Golden Age Superman comics. I got Batman 20, the first appearance of Alfred. Batman 44, which is a clever action detective comics. Several detective comics from the Golden Age. The first Bat Signal cover, Detective Comics 108. Detective Comics 109, which is a classic Golden Age Joker cover. I got that in the collection. I think my oldest Batman book is Detective Comics 42. I haven't cracked anything, pre-Robin per se. So that would be awesome one day to achieve. But I'm not putting too much pressure on myself to grow that sector of my collection, just because of how much more of an investment it is and how few of the books there are.
Yeah, for real. I mean, that in itself is going to become, that's almost like a full-on passion just for that segment of books. To be able to afford those, you'd have to forsake a lot, I would assume.
Exactly. Cool. That's you're right on point with that. It would have to turn into my sole focus if I was like, that's all I was about. And I've always been a very diverse collector. Like I still buy new books every Wednesday. Not as I used to, but I still do. I'm also buying Silver Age Keys and Golden Age books and original artwork. Getting commissions done. So my collecting interests and are kind of run the gamut, if you will. Like, I think right next to, and I've never shown this to anybody, but I'm on No Faces. Right next to the setup I created for No Faces is all with like a bunch of original art on it. You see that?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. That's beautiful.
So that's been a big of my hobby recently.
Cool.
I want to do a room
going
tour
along
eventually,
with
so I guess I would do that no Faces style. I've never done one.
Oh man,
We've
you
got
gotta do
another
it. You gotta do
feeds
it.
right into that, Kavi, from House Till the End. He says, have you gotten the original? I remember that. Have you gotten the original art piece that you bought from Hero Initiative auction yet?
No, I did not. I mean, I assumed they'll get around to shipping it eventually. I don't even remember who it was supposed to come from.
Yeah, that happens, doesn't it? It seems to always happen on those.
It was a Mark Bagley Dr. Doom piece.
Cool.
It seems to happen on those charity auctions more than anything else. I think JB had one that went MIA on him too, because it's charity and you don't really want to rush anybody and you don't want to be like, hey, where's my stuff? And, so you lay back so long and so hard that all of a sudden when you do ask, they're like, what are you talking about? We owed you something? Like, no,
Yeah, I'm not too concerned. Yeah, like I've bought hundreds of dollars of stuff on these charity auctions. I've always eventually got what I paid for or whatever. But you're right. Like to me, it's more about the contributing to the good cause. And like when the item shows up, I'm like, oh yeah, there was an item. So
yeah. All right. So one of the things that I wanted to do real quick, and I'm sorry to the chat, this is the longest we've ever gone without acknowledging the people in the chat. So Metarog, you've got your work cut out for you tonight. Let's peel back on the Gushing Per channel and see if we can just get everybody in.
All right.
What do you say,
I'll try. I'll go quick. I won't linger too long on them. All right. I'll be on my most terse behavior here. Right before the chat, we got From Heroes to Icons. Hi, Jason. We got, of course, Kavi in here. We got DS in here. We got Unruly Simeon. We got Pope in here. We got some guy named Bubs. Get him out of here.
I know that guy. He owes me money.
Robert the G-Spot Galvin was in here. How you doing, buddy? Lawrence was in here for a while. He probably already fell asleep because he wakes up real early. Biggie Shack was in here saying Don Dada. I guess that's Kavi, right?
Yeah. Let's hope.
Let's hope, right? Because otherwise we're missing a guest here. House Till the End. We were just talking about him. Welcome. Discovery Bay. JB was in here for a while. Some guy named Metarog. Get him out of here too. Tim, the comic collector. How you doing, buddy? All the way from St. Louis. Let's see. We got some Night Jam 251. Good to see you here. Library of Comics. My buddy Chad from Atlanta. Patrick Wall. We've already shouted him out. He had a good question there. Jaguar. I have a hard time pronouncing this last name, but Shikotan. How you doing, buddy? He's doing some really good videos, by the way. Really knows his stuff. Let's see who else we got in here. We got Mr. Gretzky, the Archie collector. Hialeah Comic Bro, my buddy from Dade County over there. He had to leave, Raul. Steve Whiting, the AOK master himself, another Floridian. Let's see who else we got in here. I'm trying my best New York accent here. Let's see.
If that's your best, try another one.
It's not working. It's been too long, you know. We got Werewolf by Lunchtime, all the way from New Zealand, right? Or is it Perth? Or is it somewhere down there? Somewhere down there. He's down there somewhere, and
down under.
Down under. There you go. Down under. And he's very loyal for many long time. Loyal commenter here in the chat. And let's see who else. I already told you Simeon is in here. Broke Cuz of Comics says he forgot about the show, but yet he's in here. So he remembered. So I said, thank you for remembering.
We can only assume he finally did remember.
And Barbarian Kung Fu is in here. How you doing?
Nice.
How you doing? Man, I can't do my accents anymore. I've totally just lost them. And I think I've almost gotten everybody in here. Oh, Mark Knapp, 68, my future moderator's in here. And Crazy Guy Comic Song's in here. How you doing, buddy? And I Love Disney and Comics, Steve. How you doing? And Stay Puff, another Floridian, is in here. I think, and I guess they do that really cool Silver Age Sundays. And
I love that show.
I did too. I catch it right after church. But yeah, that's it. Everybody's up to date.
Like, if there was a show that I could be on, like if my schedule permitted, and of course if I was invited on the show, like
I think Steve Whiting's in here. He might be hearing.
Why wait for invitations? Just
then I would want to be on the Silver Age Sunday show.
I forgot Gray Man. Sorry, Gray Man. How you doing, buddy? I'm so sorry. I was scrolling so quickly I went right by you. Of course, one of our best and one of the most knowledgeable supporters over there, all the way from the UK.
All right.
Sorry,
let's see.
Gray Man. Yikes.
He's awesome, and he's all over the chats. I mean, he's
he comments on almost every video he sees a video even before I've seen it, and sometimes I get the notifications and just get him in there in a minute or two. He's really quick.
Well, I'm trying to make this all happen, but you guys keep answering the questions in the chat. When they post a question, you're like, "Oh yeah, I'm trying to get that community." Yeah, that's next.
We can address a few things. Library of Congress had a question about what's the first title we all remember collecting, and then Biggie Shack is jonesing for a Golden Age cap, and a bunch of people.
Library of Comics. I'm trying to find his entry, but go ahead, DS, if you want to answer that question, and I'll post the question as soon as I can get it.
He asked all of us, what's the first title we remember collecting? I remember the first title that I collected was Thor in the early to middle of the 80s. My dad would bring me home the new issue of Thor whenever it came out. And so for a while, all I did was get the new Thor issue every month when it came out, and I really got into that. And then, then I started to really want to go out and buy comics for myself, and I kept up with Thor, obviously, and that was my favorite. And then that sort of got me interested enough to go, look around the grocery store, what was on the rack, and eventually go to the local comic shop and start to actually be a comic book avid sort of collector and reader of comics. But it was definitely the Thor comics in the early 80s, probably like 83 to 85 was where I was first exposed to comics, and that was Thor, whatever was coming out at the time. I just missed Beta Ray Bill. I didn't get that one. But it was still new enough that when I got interested in comics, I remember reading it as a back issue at the comic store. So, yeah, Thor for me.
Nice. What about you, Roger?
Nice.
I didn't get just one title. The thing is, I got several titles, but I remember 4 that I for sure know I got at the same time, and that is Justice League of America, E-Man, and Incredible Hulk. Those are the 4 that those were the first 4 that I would get before I would get other titles like Marvel 2-in-1, Defenders, Avengers, things like that.
I liked, for me, that's tough. I would say probably Wolverine, volume, I guess you call it volume 2. I mean, it's after the miniseries, so the first full volume, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I collected a couple of those as a kid. And then as an adult, that's kind of what snowballed me in, because when I first started collecting that run, I picked up the first 50 issues with only a couple of holes. The keys were missing. But I had like the first 50 issues, and I bought it. I about stole it from a comic shop. There I go again in the confessional booth.
Okay.
So what happened is that I got into reading that was the first comic that I bought to collect, and I was also reading it heavily, and I started nervous, and I wasn't collecting any other books, and I was like, you know what, I'm gonna read all these, and then I'm gonna have nothing to read, because there were only like 189 in that volume or so comics, which is a lot. I mean, that's a lot of comics, but I was reading them like 3 or 4 a week pretty easily, So I started realizing that I needed something else to read, so that I didn't run out. Like, I wanted that volume to last me for years, reading a few a week or so and have it last for years. So I said, well, I'm going to have to do something. So then I got into collecting just about anything else that I thought I would like. I got into some Bronze Age horror books because they were non-sequential. They're just kind of, what do you call those? Collected books, so I could read those without having to worry about which number I picked up, and those were filler books for me that I could read in between reading the runs and not get too invested. Then I found Tomb Raider, and I started collecting that and reading a bunch of Tomb Raider books. So that was pretty much how my collection started. And then once I had to start ponying up money for keys, even in the Wolverine run, of which there's not many keys, then it became, I really enjoyed that. So anyway, collections changed a lot, but I would say my first thing collecting was Wolverine, and then the fear of running out of those books to read is what started me collecting everything else. What about you, Kavi?
Yeah, so my introduction to comics was early 90s. I think it was like 93, 94. I might have been like 9 years old, 10 years old. Whenever it was that the Spider-Man, the animated show in the 90s was airing, that lines up pretty much directly with the first time I ever wanted to grab a comic book. I was definitely more into video gaming and basketball and baseball cards and that kind of stuff. when I was that age, but because of that animated show for Spider-Man, it piqued my interest in comics a little bit, and I would go to like kind of like a general all-purpose hobby store where they had video games, sports cards. They even had like, you know, those like 90s stuff at the time, like Pogs, but they also had comic books. So it was of a bunch of the Todd McFarlane, you know, solo Spider-Man volume, and then soon after, you know, tracking down Todd McFarlane's ASM issues and things like that. So those are my first, you know, essentially Todd McFarlane Spider-Man at Marvel was my first comic books, and I don't have those comic books anymore. Like I didn't take care of those books like I was a real collector, you know, bagging and boarding and short boxes or anything like that. I just had scattered comic books around, and I'm fairly certain that those were all like donated or like given away in garage sales or whatever by my parents at some point. So it's kind of those like I have a little mini lost collection out there from my childhood that's not part of my collection, but that's when I first started getting exposed to comic books. It was as a result of animated comic IP at the time that me and my friends were watching.
That's cool.
Yeah, that is cool.
Yeah, I kind of felt that way too when I had my when I was younger. The X-Men animated series was real popular, and so I already liked Wolverine from Secret Wars toys. Were my first exposure to Marvel things, and my brother had he collected Spider-Man and Captain America, and just like you, they were littered all over the floor of our room. We had a shared room, and so it wasn't like we were collectors at that time. Like, I don't know what that means when I was a kid. We just liked comics, and we literally read the covers off them, and then we walked on them. And then every now and then I would pick one up, try and piece it back together and read it, you know. And so we were pretty hard on our stuff as kids. But I do remember when the X-Men animated series came out, I was like, hey, I know those guys. You know, these are people that I had toys of. So that kind of excited me into it. So it's funny how people talk a lot now, and I don't mean to be rude, because I know that a couple of people in the panel, other than me and you, Kavi, there's only a couple left, right? But a couple of people in the panel have been on other shows. What the modern era is, the newest era of comics, right? Gold, silver, whatever. And a lot of them will call it the movie era. And to me, and this might be getting on a completely different topic a little bit, so I'll just say my piece and not let anyone rebut. But to me, it's not really a modern era of movies. To me, when I was a kid, the cartoons pushed it. And before that, there were toys, and there were other, you know, properties like G.I. Joe and all kinds of other things that pushed it. And there were cartoons as well. And all those things helped push it. There were trading cards that helped push the industry. So to me, unless you're going all the way back to the golden age, really including the silver age, there have always been other media that push the popularity of characters. The fact that it's movies now, well, then are you going to call the late 80s and early 90s the trading card age? Are you going to call the early 90s the cartoon era? Because all the Wolverine madness is from the X-Men animated series cartoon. I mean, there's no doubt about that. You know, all the Harley Quinn.
All my Batman madness.
Batman animated series. Absolutely. So, I mean, to me, there has always been the media pushing, other than comics, pushing the characters, mostly on kids. And so, you know, anyway, that's just my two pennies on it.
Yeah, I think a more appropriate name for like the modern, you know, it takes a while to get past an era before it becomes worthy of a title for the era. You have to be far enough removed from it to be able to look back on it as a separate chunk of time. And we're clearly past that for the 80s, which is now, you know, that's the copper age and has been so for a while. And then, you know, I call Spawn 1 the start of the modern era, but a lot of people say it's in 93. Well, whatever, early 90s they call modern, and it hasn't changed. It's just from then until now it's been called modern. But I think what distinguishes where you can divide the modern era, which now we're at, what, 26, going on 27, 28 years. That's a giant era. That can be subdivided at this point. I think what is going to subdivide it is variants. I think you'll have the modern era, or like the Spawn Independence era, is really what defines that era, because what's different once you get to like 93 to 2003? What's different about that? The independent comics, particularly Image, Dark Horse, Valiant, stuff like that. Those are probably the top three. And that defines that era. But then once you get past that, I think you start to see an era of variants. And it's an explosion of different types of variants, and the number of variant covers. It's become one of the top things nowadays is variant covers and sketch covers and blank, the blank covers, the black and whites, all that type of stuff. So I think whenever that started, and I don't know, somebody probably, probably most people here know more than I do about that, but wherever it started to be an explosion of variants and different styles of covers, those blank covers were never around before.
Right, and I think further to that, like there's a tipping point where artists, there's a lot of artists creating digital, art in the digital medium, like even in the quote unquote beginning of the modern era, you still had pencilers, inkers, and colorists.
Right.
Whereas now you have a lot of like one-stop shop artists that are doing everything digitally and then delivering the completed work.
And the digital nature of it certainly could be a way to subdivide it. And Unruly mentions that, the independents started to really blossom in the 80s. That's true, but the independents never really became major players until Image came about. There's Pacific Comics is awesome. I love Comico and Pacific Comics from the 80s, but at the time they weren't super popular. They didn't have a big share of the market. It was still Marvel and DC. And it wasn't until Image came out that independence really became a force in the hobby. So it's what evolution defines that era. Not is there anything in that era that was present before? There's been independence forever, but it really wasn't until the early 90s when independence sort of really made their mark in a big way on the hobby. And so that's why I think independence on that. But then you have digital variant covers. Bub, I think the movie era is appropriate. There have always been movies about comic books, but the way it is now, it's those movies are the biggest blockbuster movies that come out now. They weren't before. It wasn't until the Batman movie with Michael Keaton where I had ever heard of a comic book movie that was like, oh my God, this is the biggest movie of the year. It just wasn't. I mean, some of them were cool. The Superman stuff, those are cool movies. But now the movies they almost transcend the comics, whereas before they didn't. And to such a degree that they are affecting the comic book market. I don't think anything previously has done that, where the movies or the shows directly affected the comic book market to such a degree that they do now. And the one standout was Batman. And actually this was re-released into a second and third print because of that movie. That movie was so popular, they reissued a couple extra printings of Batman 423. But generally, it was just merchandise. There was tons of Batman T-shirts and Batman toys, and McDonald's had a Batman thing, and Dunkin' Donuts had a Batman thing or whatever. But it wasn't like it affected the comics. Whereas now, you get some spec at some character, some villain's going to be an upcoming Marvel movie, and they got Phase 4, and it's planned out multiple years. That never happened before. So I think calling this the movie era would be equally appropriate as a variant era, the digital era, the spec era. I thought all those sort of define. And I don't know when that started. Maybe like 2004, 2005. Maybe that started, but I don't think it was really present to this degree before.
I agree. I think just because something existed prior, it matters how prevalent and strong it is if you're going to use it to define an era.
Yeah, I think the fact that we used metals to signify value, like gold better than silver, better than bronze, better than copper, it sort of has gone like a downslide as far as the thinking being that the value of the older comics being more than the newer. But I think that's kind of a tough way to differentiate eras because it doesn't really give you much information about what was inherent and what was moving that era. So, whether you call it the movie era, the internet era, the digital era, that's more descriptive of what factors led to the identification of collectability in that era. So, but then we'd have to go back and sort of rename and reclassify all those eras.
I mean, we can keep using metals, but they're getting to less and less valuable metals, and after copper, I mean, we're running out of less valuable metals. I mean, aluminum and tin probably next. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then
how about pewter?
Lead.
Pewter's decent. I go with pewter era.
Pewter's an alloy.
Yeah, pewter's not
Pewter's not an element. It's an alloy.
Yeah, they're using elements.
Is pot metal an alloy?
I mean, tin and aluminum are up next. I think lead is probably on a par with aluminum price-wise.
Can we go with nickel?
Yeah, we're getting all kinds of stuff. Zinc, nickel, not steel.
Zinc.
Steel is also not an element. It's an amalgamation of alloy of iron and various other metals.
Yeah, I don't think we can use the Iron Age because that's going to conflict with some other historical.
Yeah, probably.
Although Bronze Age does already, so.
I was going to say that's also a problem. Yes.
I mean, tin and aluminum are definitely next on the scale, I think.
Yeah.
We do steampunk era. I like that.
Steampunk. Well,
plastic era. Says
that would be more Victorian,
Ooh,
yeah, Steve Woodard, who's very knowledgeable about modern stuff, he's saying 2011, 2012 might be a good dividing point with movies getting huge, New 52, Marvel Now, limited digital variants, boom, stuff like that. So yeah, I mean, I'll defer to him on that. He knows way more than I do about this era. So 2011, 2012 sounds good to me, and that makes sense because then you can do like 92, 93 to 2011. Fairly long, still, 17, 18, 19 year period. But then it makes sense because now we're in a new era since 2011. So
I love Disney and comics at adamantium age, but I don't think this age is good enough for adamantium. Vibranium or anything like that.
Yeah. It's clever though because when you're thinking about the movies and you're thinking about Ultron and Vibranium with Black Panther. Somebody else mentioned that. That's clever.
What are Robin's short shorts made of? Let's go with that. Lycra spandex? Call it the Lycra spandex era.
That was the 90s, bub.
I give up then.
Late 90s.
No matter which way you go, there's going to be some problem. Yeah.
The velour era, we call that Kentucky suede down here.
I mean, I'll go with Pope, but that's a bit subjective. We'll call it the Marvel doesn't care about you era. But
well, that's very descriptive. I have to give you that. Yeah,
that's not going to be agreed upon by all. But
Clay, that's a good one.
Yeah, and I feel a little out of
Diamond.
I feel
Diamond
Marvel
Universe like that.
I'll read it.
All right. Well, it's about that time, y'all. It's just a couple of minutes after 7 or 8 or wherever you live.
7 my time, 7 our time.
Right at it. Yeah. All right. So we're gonna be doing this right. DS, glad to have you back. You weren't here last week. So if any of you saw it, thank you for your thoughts and prayers for DS. I believe, DS, your rash has cleared up, has it not?
It has, and I appreciate you, keeping people posted on my medical conditions and gathering up the prayers. And so I have a new pair of Christmas pants. Hopefully that will alleviate future medical problems that Bub will have to update everyone on. So I'm glad.
That's fantastic. You got to stay away from that foreign fleece, as they call it. Well, DS, you want to tell us what segment we're about to show here?
Well, I think we're about to show why no faces. And
why
no faces is because Bub might find you high on pause and show it to the world. And we're about to see who has agreed to be the subject of this week's pause examination. So go for it, Bub.
Pause examination. Sounds like something the vet would give you.
Oh, it's far worse than that.
The old pause. All right. Well, there it is.
Oh, preview.
Almost.
Is it flashing on y'all screen?
Yeah, it's flashing. It's yeah. What's up with that?
Yeah, it's flashing. That's weird.
I don't know.
There it goes. There it goes. There it goes. Spider-Man, Punisher, and Thor all in one. Look at that.
So the point of this one for me was that if you notice up here, it says "Why no faces?" High on pause, but this is right here the top height that Kavi ever gets in any of your videos. This is as high of a face as Kavi ever has. He keeps all his videos. We do Why No Faces, but he does barely face. As you can see, this one over here, that's as high up as he got on the camera. Here again, and you can go back through all his videos, and I'm telling you, it's from the chin to the hat brim, and that's all you're getting, buddy.
Yeah, we don't know if he has a.
You guys want to know the real? You guys want to know the real reason why that is?
Because
let me tell you right now. Let me tell you right now, Kavi. If it's because you're in a wheelchair, it's the only thing I've worried about all day. So let's hope not. All day I said, "I'm great. I'm gonna."
My chair actually won't go
and he's
up
gonna
and down.
say, "Yeah, that's because I lost my legs in the in the war." You know, I'm like, oh god.
I bought my office chair used from a neighbor at my last apartment building like 2 years ago, and it stopped moving up and down. Like it's stuck in the all the way down position, and I have no way to move it up. So I'm literally sitting at the lowest possible point that chair goes. So if somebody wants to AOK me a new desk chair, I would take it.
Nice. There you go. The call has come out for Kavi's desk chair.
Yes.
And make sure that the elevation and declination of the chair works. Very important. Maybe we'll get to see Kavi's neck someday soon.
That's right.
I tell you, those phone books in Brooklyn are pretty thick. You should be able to sit on a stack of those.
Phone book? What decade is it?
What decade are you at?
Oh, sure. I bet you read all your comics digital too, right? I like to smell the number.
Maybe I can sit on some of my omnibus.
You know what I find works good? If you get a stack of old Mylars, they're about the only thing good for us to sit on to raise you up.
Oh man, we have to have a Mylar.
I use all my Mylars. Yes, come on.
We have to have a Mylar slam every Monday night here, Kavi. I don't know if you know that. It's like a requirement apparently.
No, I do know that.
You've got your choices, Roger. It's Mylar.
That's the subject of the third episode of Road Chat that DS and I are threatened to do but never actually do.
Oh,
we'll have to get back on that train though.
Yeah.
Wow.
Look at Immortal.
Yeah, we actually
Biggie
have a
Shaq.
show. There are 2 episodes. Maybe the trilogy will be completed eventually, but you never know.
Nice. I like Biggie Shaq saying, "Just adjust your camera," and putting him up on the screen, putting Biggie Shaq's question on the screen. Now we only see one mouth.
But he's got that great hat collection. The hat is the star in Kavi's videos because he has an incredible collection of hats. And let me tell you, every time I see one of his videos, like, oh, I wish.
Are you still getting those hat boxes, Kavi?
What hat boxes?
Didn't you have like a mystery box? I felt like I saw you open up an exclusive hat.
Every
box
hat I get. No. Yeah, I don't know. Mystery hat boxes sounds a little risky to me. Like I'm pretty particular, so unless I get it as a gift from somebody else, like that Punisher hat was a gift from Bear Island, for example. But most hats I like specifically get.
Very peculiar.
I love it.
I understand that. That's.
Well, there you have it, y'all. The Why No Faces, high on pause. He can't even get high, but he's there. We thank you for joining us, Kavi. And for being such a good sport. I don't think you technically volunteered, but the new policy is every time we have a new guest, they are subject to being on this segment. So thank you.
Yeah.
Nobody ever reads the fine print, but it's on there.
A new guest application.
Well, hey, it's been a while, but I used to be a no-face channel, so even turning the camera around for me was a little bit big step for me. But now I'm so used to it.
Yeah, you're all over the place now.
Yeah.
It's fun, isn't it?
Yeah, it's harder to do a no-face, honestly. My setup's not built for no-face anymore. So.
Yeah, same here. Yeah, you and me have been doing like the same thing, Cobby, because it's such a pain for my setup to get it without the face that I just do it with my face now because it's the easiest way to set up.
It's way easier from a setup standpoint. You just turn it on and press record.
And everyone can see both me and Cobby's faces here in about a half hour because we're going to be on the Boy Who Had Seven's channel.
That is true. We will be back on the Boy Who Had Seven in about 20 minutes.
Nice. I'll be there.
Let me tell you, you're about 5 minutes from the plug time. Okay, everybody get back on script. Just for that little unscheduled plug, I'm going to ask Roger what he's got coming up on his channel. But first, we'll go ahead. Roger, what do you got coming up on your channel this week?
Well, I'm on vacation this week from YouTube because my wife and I are going to go visit my daughter right after Christmas. So I've got nothing going on until the beginning of next year.
So will you be on next week with us?
I don't think so. I think I will be with my daughter next week. Yeah. We'll probably be out out and about.
DS, will you be on next week?
Yeah, I'll join you. I'll be here.
Well, don't do me no favors. I was just asking.
Yeah, just send your regular payment as usual, and as soon as I get it, if I get it by Monday, I'll join you again.
All right, fair enough.
I haven't gotten any payments. Hold on a second. I need back pay.
Well, technically, DS's payment is that I don't call him for the rest of the week. So, per day.
Oh man, I thought you guys
cut down to 1 week.
Okay, I thought you guys had some kind of scam going that I wasn't in on. I was like, hey, what am I, Swiss cheese over here?
No, I run my own.
Oh, it's funny though. You had your Roger. You had your video this past week. I guess this weekend probably, where you were talking about the community and how great everybody was, and it was really a great video. If you guys haven't watched that, watch that. It's a fantastic video. And you were just saying that
fantastic video, yeah.
Thank you.
It was super good.
It really is for the community, not about me. It was really about the community.
Yeah. And I was wondering, what happened to all the people that I used to talk to? Because I was pretty good on the phone. I would talk to probably DS a couple times a week. I even called you a few times, probably to bother you. I used to talk to Silver at least once a week. I used to talk to Lawrence twice a week. And then I haven't talked to anyone in 2 months on the phone. And then you put out that video and you were like, yeah, I talked to Silver 3 times a week. I talked to Lawrence 3 times a week. I'm like, this guy's taking my phone time.
Well, it's not consistent, I mean, I speak to guys here and there, but it's not consistent. Like Lawrence, I speak to him quite a few times, and Silver at least once a week, or recently more because he's got that collection that we've been looking through. But yeah, no, it's not as quite as often as maybe I made it seem.
It's all good. I'm glad somebody's answering their phones. I was about to get everyone on a new family plan.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Yeah,
I need more minutes.
That's a good idea.
All right. So you're taking a break. We might not even see you until the first of the year, so we'll miss you for sure. DS, what do you got coming up on your channel or any other appearances that now is your official time to plug?
Well, I've got the Golden Guys tomorrow night. I'm not sure if I will make it tomorrow night, but it's still an awesome show every Tuesday at 10 p.m. Eastern. But on my channel, I've got 5 packages at CGC, and 3 of them are in the grading quality control stage. So I'll be doing some unboxings coming up, and then I'll do an auction after I get a bunch of that stuff back. And then I'll try to put out some other content. I just haven't had time, so I don't put out a ton of content. But stay tuned. There's stuff coming up on my channel here towards the end of the year, beginning of next year.
You know, I had my first lost submission last week or 2 weeks ago now. Well, they found it last week, but it went to PGX. I had a submission going to PGX, and they didn't pick it up at the post office. So it showed available for pickup, but the post office said it was picked up, and they didn't have it. It turned out the post office put it in someone else's box.
Ooh.
and said it was labeled as picked up. So my books were missing for a week. And I was lucky that the other person, whose ever box that was, never came to clear out their box, and it was still there.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, but I've got insurance. You know, that to me, that's what insurance is for right there, because I wasn't worried if the books were lost. They'd have been hard to replace, but it's okay. You know, I would have at least had value back for them. So that, yeah. So anyway, when you said you had books out there, it made me think of that. So.
Yeah, I'm always a nervous wreck when I send books out to CGC until they show up on their system as received. And it doesn't, you know, depending on what tier it is, it doesn't show up right away after they picked it up. So there's always several days worth of anxiety for me before I see it in their system. But they haven't lost anything yet. Everything I've sent to them has gotten there so far. But, you know, a long enough timeline, anything will happen.
That's true. That's true. Well, Kavi, what do you got going on your big channel or any other channel that you may have an appearance coming soon?
Yeah, well, right after this, DS and I are going to be over on The Boy Who Had Seven with
I think we've heard enough about that one.
And, we got a little something for Matt, so that'll be cool. We'll hang out with him, and he'll unbox that package from the three of us, so that'll be cool. But on my own channel, I unboxed an AOK that was sent to me this morning from Geeks, Drinks, and Comics, so that's available on my channel now. Sometime between now and January 1st, I'm hoping to do a top comic pickups of 2019 kind of video, which a lot of people have been making recently. So hopefully I can get one of those out there. And then sometime next week, I think early next week, sort of in between holidays, like in between Christmas and New Year's, I'm going to do a live stream with J Hood Creative, and we're both going to sort of showcase some of our published original artwork pages and things like that, which I haven't had a chance to really showcase too often on my channel. So I'm looking forward to doing that with him. But that's basically all I have planned. I've sent a few other AOKs out there, like to Fuchsia and Soldier Only, to D-Ron Comics Forge. So I may or may not hop on with those guys when they unbox their AOKs that I sent to them. But that's pretty much all I got going on right now.
I really like that live unboxing with the people who sent them. I'm really enjoying that. I've seen a couple too this last week where they were like mystery boxes, and the person who sent the mystery box jumped on. And that's probably my new favorite video to watch, because as DS likes to say, he and I have something of a darker heart than some of the others, some of the people in our community. And I really, really enjoy watching the people hide the disappointment in their face when they open some of these mystery boxes and they're like, really? How much did I spend for this? You know, I just love it. I just think it's great, which is not an AOK. You know, when you get an AOK, I don't care. Someone could send to me, you know what? DS could send me his old Mylars and backing boards, and I'd probably be like, thanks, man. I got a use for this, you know?
Which he will.
But if I spent $5 on a mystery box, I'm going to be like, look, there better be some nice stuff in here.
Yeah, the comic book version of scratch-off tickets is what they are.
Yeah, they are. I don't know. Nobody can spend my money better than me. I don't need any help.
I can.
Yeah, you can. All right. Well, thank you guys. Thanks for being on the chat, Kai. We really appreciate you coming by.
Yeah, dude, it was a blast being on the show, guys. I really appreciate it.
We're gonna have you and Javi on, so we can have the Avi connection. That's my goal. That's on my 2020 want list, is to have the Avi connect.
Yeah, just get people even more confused. I love it.
Why not? So it's funny too, because your videos are all right up front from chin to brim, and his videos are like shot from across the street. Like he's so small, like down in the middle of the video, and so far away from the camera. Yeah. So that would be a fun dynamic. So thank you for being on, and of course, thanks always to Roger and DS for being on. Kavi, you don't have a signature goodbye, do you?
I don't have a signature, but no, I don't have a signature goodbye. I've been giving some homages to other channels because I never know what to say when I sign off. So,
Cool.
I do love your "don't apologize for the glare" thing. I think that's pretty smart.
I like that. I appreciate that. I just don't. It drove me crazy, everyone. And I think I've made an impact on the community. I think less people apologize for the glare now, and I feel that's me giving back, Roger. That's how I do it.
That's what I said in my video. We all give back, and even in the small ways or in the big ways. But as long as we're all giving something, we're a better community for it.
I love it. Well, thanks for being on. Roger, do you want to say your goodbyes? I'm leaving DS for last. I'm hoping he's sweating because he's got to get another live chat in 7 minutes. So,
yeah, man, it was great having Kavi here. Again, such a generous guy. Sending AOK is always so giving. And when I did that video, I mean, he was one of the guys I had in mind. And I said, hey, this is such a giving community. Along with so many others, of course, but I couldn't name everybody. But it was been a pleasure, Kavi. Really, I think we've been on like one other stream before, and you're just a top-notch guy. That anytime I'm on with you, it's an honor. And the chat is always, you guys are superstars. Always my favorite. I'll be out for a little bit. I'll still be watching videos and commenting here and there, but I won't be as active until the new year. But everybody, and I mean this for the new year, be blessed and be back.
Yeah, Happy New Year to you, Roger. I'm sure we'll talk in some way if you answer my calls.
Man. You deserve it.
Now and then. Yes, enjoy the break. And DS, you want to say your magical, sweet, and long, and poetic, in that soft voice that will lull a baby seal to sleep. You want to say your goodbyes?
Yeah, I don't know about all that, but thanks everyone for being here. Do your homework, and me and Bub will catch you next week. And I am going to get off of here, tend to Mrs. DS, and then I'll be on the other show. So I'll catch you all later.
All right. Well, thank you, DS, for being on here. I'm glad you can tend to Mrs. DS. Oh, yeah. So you're hopping off. You're not tending to Mrs. DS, though, are you? No, it's just.
Oh, I better go check on that.
Mr. DS. Would like that.
that would save DS some trouble, though. So
it might. I mean, he's only got 11 minutes to tend to her, so.
Oh man, we're unforgivable. We're unforgivable here.
I know. I'm sorry, guys. Hey, everybody, have a great week. We'll catch you next week on the No Faces Comic Chat. Thank you to everyone that was in the panel and everybody that was on the live chat, the live replay. And if you're watching on the replay, we missed you, and we'll catch you next week on BUB'S Comics. And remember, read a comic and don't apologize for the glare. Thank you very much, and we'll catch you next week. Bye-bye.